This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the Longevity Show, informing listeners on the important aspects of health, wealth, and happiness to ensure you live life to its fullest. With fascinating interviews with top authors and gurus in the field, along with the latest news in the science and technology of longevity, we're going to reveal expert advice and amazing secrets of living a longer, happier life. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman.
This is Jason Hartman. Welcome to the Longevity and Biohacking Show. Occasionally, we have a guest host, and today we have Fernando guest hosting for me. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's fascinating. Dive in and enjoy, and make sure you visit us at hartmanmedia.com to check out all of our great shows, and be sure you have actually subscribed to the show so you don't miss any episodes.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Fernando Aires, in partnership with the Hartman Media Company. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome Dr. Michael Greger to the show. Dr. Greger is the #1 best-selling author of How Not To Die. This is a book about foods that are proven to prevent and reverse disease. It is a bestseller in Amazon with over 2,700 reviews and close to a 5-star average review rating. The companion book is called The How Not to Die Cookbook, and it has more than 100 recipes to also help in reverse disease. Dr. Greger is also the founder of nutritionfacts.org, and this is a site with all kinds of info, videos, and resources about health and nutrition topics. He's also at drgreger.org, drgreger.org. Dr. Greger, how are you today?
I am good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for your enthusiasm. I'm really glad that you came to the show, and I'm going to be able to ask you all kinds of questions about your books and so on. And I wanted to jump right in. In your book that we mentioned, the How Not to Die book, you discussed the 15 top causes of premature death in America. And these are heart disease, cancers, diabetes, etc. Now, most people, I imagine the average American, would go and get treated with pills and surgery to deal with these diseases. But I think you are offering a different aspect to this. And how can nutrition and lifestyle choices do better than standard prescription pills and surgery?
Well, according to the Global Burden of Disease Study, which is the largest study on human risk factors for disease in history, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the #1 cause of death in the United States and the #1 cause of disability in the United States is both our diet, bumping tobacco smoking to #2. Cigarettes now only kill about 500,000 Americans every year, whereas our diet kills hundreds of thousands more. So, I mean, the good news is we have tremendous power over our health, destiny, and longevity. The vast majority of premature death and disability is preventable with a plant-based diet and other healthy lifestyle behaviors.
That makes sense. I mean, you mentioned smoking. Smoking is still a big deal. I mean, what I mean by that is it seems we're going into this era of e-cigarettes and vaping and that sort of thing. What's your take on that aspect of it? Is that, the marketing side of it tells us that they're trying to help us, smoke less. I mean, do you share that same, view?
I mean, still about 1 in 5 people smoke tobacco, making it second leading killer. And so, look, it's your body, your choice. You want to smoke cigarettes, go bungee jumping, do whatever you want, but you should do it eyes open, fully informed about the predictable consequences of your actions. As a physician, all I can do is share with you what people in your situation what might happen to you if you were to take up a smoking habit or continue smoking. The vaping debate, it's not something I've paid close attention to, but I know it's a hot topic in the public health field, with the two camps, one being that, look, vaping doesn't have many of the carcinogens, the kind of combustible carcinogens like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons that you get when you're actually burning tobacco. And so that, it's better than smoking. Whereas the other camp says, well, look, we're still, addicting people to nicotine. And once they become addicted, Vaping may just be kind of a gateway drug to smoking cigarettes, or if vaping isn't available, or they'll combine the two. And so the less nicotine addicted people on the planet, probably the better, just because as long as cigarettes exist, they will offer a fix to somebody who can't rip themselves away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I can see the debate can go on, and depending on what financial interests are behind it, that's probably the one that is going to win, at least in the short term. Now, what do you think about the way that most doctors approach chronic disease? Is it true that most doctors are pretty bad at preventing chronic disease? How do you view things being a physician yourself?
Not only bad at preventing, but bad at treating. I mean, for acute conditions, we're great. I mean, modern medicine, we can cure your infection with antibiotics. We can splint your broken leg. But when it comes to about 80% of what we see in primary care medicine, these chronic lifestyle diseases, well, I mean, lifestyle is the cause. And so the only way to treat the cause is basically using food as medicine, lifestyle as medicine. You can cover up the symptoms. You can literally bypass the problem with, bypass surgery. We can artificially lower blood pressures with various drugs, but you're not getting to the underlying causes, which is these, dysfunctional, crippled, stiffened arteries, thanks to largely unhealthy diets, although smoking, inactivity, lots of things contribute. But again, diet is the number one cause. But look, again, that's great news. And look, we don't have to, just like you don't have to wait for your doctor to tell you to stop smoking, because maybe your doctor has a smoking habit of their own, right? Or maybe your doctor has, crappy eating habits and, isn't willing to face up to those as well. Well, look, you don't have to wait till them to, get a good hold of the science when it comes to safe, simple, side effect-free solutions like eat healthier, stop smoking. You can go for it.
But specifically for heart disease, and the number one cause of premature death, what are specific nutrition and lifestyle choices that you advise?
Well, there's only one diet that's ever been proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients, a plant-based diet. And look, if that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the number one killer of men and women, shouldn't that be the default diet until proven otherwise? And the fact that it can also be effective in, preventing, arresting, reversing other leading killers like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, would seem to make the case for, plant-based eating simply overwhelming.
Now, when you say plant-based, do you exclude all meats and seafood? Or what exactly do you mean by a plant-based? Is it majority plant-based or exclusively? Can you expand on that?
Well, the best available balance of evidence suggests that the healthiest diet is one that minimizes the intake of meat, eggs, dairy, and processed junk, and maximizes the intake of fruits, vegetables, legumes, which are beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils, whole grains, nuts and seeds, mushrooms, herbs, and spices. Basically, real food that grows out of the ground. These are our healthiest choices. And so the more whole, healthy plant foods we can fit into our diet, the better.
Now, do you I imagine you do differentiate between let's take meats as a discussion point, but meats that are industrialized, and basically you have a terrible combination of antibiotics and pesticides and everything else that gets thrown into their feeds, versus cows that are grazing on pastures that have all kinds of micronutrients and a healthier lifestyle. Do you see a benefit from eating those healthier type meats, or what's your view, in meats in general from that perspective?
Well, there has been some science comparing, for example, wild game to conventional meat. So there's a study in Australia that looked at kangaroo meat, for example, which is kind of like, venison in Australia, and found that the spike, the so-called postprandial or after meal spike in inflammation was significantly less than that after eating conventional meat. So certainly a step in the right direction. But I mean, ideally, wouldn't we want to have a meal not be pro-inflammatory at all? And in fact, these whole healthy plant foods we're talking about actually have anti-inflammatory properties. Drops your C-reactive protein, helps extinguish some of this low-grade inflammation, which is implicated in a variety of disease states, diabetes, certain cancers, heart disease, etc. Is it better? When you ask, is something healthy, you have to be like, well, compared to what? So, are eggs healthy? Well, compared to the breakfast sausage next to it, absolutely. Yeah, but not, compared to oatmeal, not even close, right? It's is fish healthy compared to bacon, right? But compared to kidney beans, there's really no contest.
Okay, so if I play the devil's advocate, at least on the oils, if we talk about oils and inflammation, most of the vegetable oils are pretty high in omega-6s, and they're pro-inflammatory. Do you have reservations over that, or what's your view? Your
Absolutely. No,
again,
a whole food plant-based diet. So that means that we should have whole food sources of all the macronutrients, whole food sources of fat, protein, carbohydrates. So we don't use there's no oil in our house. I mean, we don't encourage people to use oil, but I encourage people to eat nuts, seeds, nut butters, seed butters, avocados, whole food sources of fat. Absolutely. Even extra virgin olive oil can impair one's arterial function. And so, I encourage people to stay away from all processed foods, plant or animal. It's not so much kind of plant versus animal, but whole plant food versus basically everything else.
And what about saturated fats? As of lately, there's been quite a bit of, if you search on the web, you'll see that there is this movement about saturated fats not being as bad as once thought. Do you have
If you search on the web, you will find people that are revisiting the flat Earth theory.
No, I've met one of them.
And so I seeing something a lot on the internet lately. Unfortunately, is not much of a bar, but because of just what you describe, this kind of echo chamber of saturated fat skeptics, the AHA, the American Heart Association, recently released a presidential advisory saying, "Stop the madness. We have, a good half century of solid data. Here it is, laid it out. In fact, it's open access, so anyone can read it, saying very clearly saturated fat, raise your LDL cholesterol, your bad cholesterol, which is a leading risk factor for the number one killer of men and women. We should reduce our saturated fat intake." And that's not just meat and dairy, but also coconut oil, palm kernel oil, palm oil, some of these junky, processed food oils. And, look, it's the number one killer. Let's not mess around.
And so no oil. So you don't recommend any processed oils, basically, by definition. I guess there's some...
Any processed food,
yeah.
Right? And, it's just, that's how you make money, is you process food, right? Fruits and vegetables, they're perishable. Terrible investment. You're not going to make your shareholders any money. What you want to give your shareholders is a Twinkie. It's just on the shelf for a couple of weeks. Or Coca-Cola, that's like dirt cheap ingredients, sell for $1 a bottle. It's a taxpayer subsidized sugar. I mean, that's how you make money. It's not like they just want to make kids fat. It's just that's how you make profit. You're never going to see an ad for sweet potatoes on the Super Bowl. Right?
That's true. Yeah, it's not processed.
Even a broccoli grower isn't going to put an ad on TV for broccoli because it's not a branded product. You'll just buy their competitors' broccoli. Like, it's just, the system is set up to promote garbage, to promote junk. And look at our obesity epidemic, our epidemic of these chronic diseases. Even though the science is clear, has been clear, it's like smoking. It took more than 25 years and 7,000 studies before the first Surgeon General report against smoking came out in the 60s. So we had decades of science linking smoking with lung cancer, but it was ignored. Why? Because smoking was normal. Most doctors smoked, just like most doctors eat the standard American diet. Today, the average per capita cigarette consumption then 4,000 cigarettes a year, meaning the average American smoked half pack a day. American Medical Association went on record reassuring everyone smoking in moderation, totally fine, right? Total disconnect between the science, the very clear science starting back in the 30s linking smoking with lung cancer, and public policy.
So do you see sugar, falling into this category that, one day there will be, very strict regulations on sugar, because that is just so prevalent in every processed food that you see?
Why is it prevalent in processed food? Because it's dirt cheap thanks to taxpayer subsidies.
Yeah.
And it, hijacks our taste buds, which were designed to seek out healthy. What's sweet in nature? Mostly healthy things like fruit. But the food industry uses, fat, sugar, and salt to basically hijack our taste buds and get them to eat profitable garbage rather than eating, what we were designed to eat. And so absolutely we should stay away from processed sugar. Most sugar actually comes from beets these days. But eat beets, don't eat sugar. Eat corn, not corn syrup. You're just stripping away all the nutrition. Basically, sugar is the oil of the carbohydrate kingdom, right? What's oil? You take a walnut, you strip out all the nutrition, you're left with oil. Maybe there's a little vitamin E, some fat-soluble nutrients, but basically there's not much there, empty calories. Same thing with sugar. You take a sugar beet, you remove all the fiber, all the nutrients, and you're left with just empty calories. And they're not just empty, but actually maybe an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease.
Yeah, our body gets overloaded with that processed part of it, and nothing else that comes with it that helps digest it improperly. That's just completely unnatural for our body to take in. What about fruit juices? I mean, I understand fruits for the same reason that we discussed, but what's your take on, fructose?
Well, I mean, fructose in fruit, in whole fruit, I mean, that's how we should get fructose. That's how we should get nutrients in general, whole plant foods. Unfortunately, when you strip away the fiber to turn fruit into fruit juice, you're not only stripping away the fiber, which is good for its own reasons, but you're stripping away the majority of the polyphenol phytonutrients, which are attached to the fiber and only released in the colon by your kind of good gut flora to have kind of beneficial physiological effects. So you're really removing a lot of nutrition when you're moving from fruit to fruit juice. It actually has a very different physiological effect on our body. It gets absorbed rapidly into our system in the first part of the small intestine, just because there's nothing slowing its absorption. The fiber has kind of a gelling effect, slow stomach emptying. So again, we should try to eat kind of food as grown.
Okay, so let's talk about prostate cancer. Notice that you advise staying away from milk and also adding flaxseed to the diet. What are the thoughts behind that? What's your view on milk and specifically for prostate cancer?
Well, I mean, what you were just saying about, it's so unnatural to eat sugar. You want unnatural? How about drinking milk after infancy? I mean, that's just crazy. Milk is for babies, right? And then, wait a second, drinking the milk of another species? I mean, that's just like totally unnatural. Like, I mean, you can't,
funny.
Right? It's just a weird, I mean, like, why not drink donkey milk or dog milk or rat milk? It's just like such a weird thing. And
I
so
have the
no
exact
wonder.
same feeling when I talk to people. This is so weird. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But look, just because something doesn't make sense doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. But there's good data linking dairy consumption with prostate cancer, with Parkinson's disease, a number of maladies. And so now we have this beautiful thing called science, where we can put things to the test and see what happens. So we have not just observational studies, population studies, where you can, track people's diets and disease states and kind of see what's associated with what. But we have these randomized, controlled trials where you can split people up, randomize them to two different diets. So Ornish did this with prostate cancer patients, took men with prostate cancer. Half continued to eat their regular diet or whatever their doctor told them to eat, and the other half were put on a whole food plant-based diet. And for the first time ever, diet and lifestyle changes were shown to reverse the progression of cancer on average. And you can even show this in a petri dish. You take some, human prostate cancer cells in a petri dish, and you drip the blood of somebody in the standard American diet onto those cells, and it suppresses cancer growth about 9%, just a tiny amount. But you put people on a plant-based diet for a year, and the cancer growth suppressed 70%, nearly 8 times the cancer-stopping power, the blood circulating throughout the bodies of those eating healthier diets. In that case, they were also exercising and practicing stress management and smoking cessation.
What's your view on coffee? I know I've read, and I'm a coffee drinker, and I know it can reduce inflammation. What's the process there? How does it actually help that happen?
Well, in my chapters on liver disease, depression, and Parkinson's, I discuss the benefits of coffee for the liver, mind, and brain. Coffee drinkers do seem to live longer, have lower cancer rates overall, but coffee can worsen acid reflux disease, bone loss, glaucoma, urinary incontinence. So it's not right for everybody. Bottom line is I don't recommend drinking coffee, but mainly it's just because every cup of coffee is a lost opportunity to drink something even healthier, a cup of green tea. We just have better data suggesting green tea benefits. But in terms of inflammation, coffee it's not actually a bean, it's a seed botanically. And so it's a plant food packed with phytonutrients. It's got what are these called chlorogenic acids, which are polyphenol phytonutrients, have all sorts of benefits throughout the body. And so, in fact, it's one of the leading sources of antioxidants in the American diet. Actually, beer is as well, just because people eat so little produce.
That's pretty sad.
But it is pretty. Coffee is a healthy beverage. Tea is an even healthier beverage. I recommend both green or white tea, same plant, or an herbal tea called hibiscus, or just plain tap water.
Now, in your book, you have your daily dozen, Dr. Greger's daily dozen. It's essentially a list or a checklist of the 12 foods we should consume every day. Can you go over a few of these and the benefits, why people should care and pay attention to this list?
Yeah, so the first half of How Not to Die is just 15 chapters, each of the 15 leading causes of death, talking about the role diet may play in preventing, arresting, or reversing each of our top 15 killers. But I didn't want it to just be kind of a reference book. I also wanted to be kind of a practical guide on translating this mountain of data into kind of day-to-day grocery store type decisions. And so that's what became the second half of the book, where I center my recommendations around a daily dozen checklist of all the things I try to fit into my daily routine. And so beans every day, berries every day, the healthiest fruits, greens every day, the healthiest vegetables, a tablespoon of ground flax seeds, quarter teaspoon of turmeric, the best beverages, how much exercise to get. Basically, I'm just trying to inspire people to include some of the healthiest of healthy options into their daily routine. And so there's a free app, iPhone, Android, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. You can, just check off, see how you're doing, chart your progress kind of things. Again, just kind of a tool to be like, at the end of the day, like, oh, wow, I didn't eat berries at all today. Well, quick, make a smoothie or something.
All right. Well, we're getting towards the end of the interview, and I just want to give you an opportunity to provide our listeners with some last thoughts and some good advice and anything else that you can think of.
Sure. I just encourage people, if you're interested in these topics, to check out my work at nutritionfacts.org. Everything's free. There's no ads. It's nonprofit, science-based public service. There's new videos and articles every day on the latest in evidence-based nutrition. All the proceeds I receive from all the sales of my books all goes to charity. It's really just about trying to empower people with the knowledge to make the best decisions for themselves and their families.
Well, very good. Dr. Michael Greger at drgreger.org. It's been a pleasure to have you in the show, and you have a great day, okay?
You too. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.